Andrew Wilson and Muslim debater Daniel Hukikachu collide in Nashville, Tennessee this November 15th and 16th at DEBATECON 6 on whether or not Christian or Islamic values are better for society. You don't want to miss it. Grab your tickets by clicking on this link right now so you don't miss out on this epic debate conference featuring that debate and many others. Hey everybody, tonight we're debating whether or not the left is more violent, and we are starting right now with Jake's opening statement. Thanks for being with us. Jake, the floor is all yours for your opening.
James, great to be here once again. Come to Nashville, come and experience all of the raucous. Me and Rob Knorr might be coming dressed up as the Blues Brothers. That could happen, which will be interesting if it does happen. All right, so before we even talk about who is more violent, let's define what we mean here. Political violence is the use of force, intimidation, or coercion to influence political outcomes or policy. It can be physical or psychological, committed by individuals or groups, organized or spontaneous. Under this definition, a riot, an arson attack, or an assault intended to influence politics counts as political violence. And we'll be using this framework today so we can all be talking about the same reality. Now, let's look at the reality. Polling shows that this isn't fringe behavior from the left. A 2025 RMG poll found that 28% of Democrats said it would be better if Trump had been killed, and another 24% were unsure. RU researchers report that 55% of the left of center respondents justified the murder of Trump. This is not theoretical. This is a culture where a significant portion of the population condones political violence. You can't dismiss it as isolated acts. There's measurable support. It gets worse, though, because institutions tasked with enforcing the law often turn a blind eye. DAs in multiple blue cities refuse to prosecute violent leftist mobs. Rioters attacking ICE facilities or federal buildings are sometimes classified as protests or reclassified away from terrorism. Meanwhile, similar acts by right-wing actors would be headline news and aggressively prosecuted. This selective enforcement sends a message. Some violence is tolerated, excused, even normalized, and that normalization matters. And here's what you can see with your own eyes. Minneapolis 2020, Chaz Autonomous Zone, arson attacks, attacks on police, federal property destroyed. Portland, ICE facilities ambushed in 2025, officers wounded, multiple arrests. Tesla arsons, campus intimidation, assaults at public events. These are real, documented, repeated acts. Facts, not opinion. The lived reality of political violence today overwhelmingly shows a modern left that tolerates and even commits violence when it suits their cause. And here's the bottom line. This is absolutely ridiculous. This whole entire debate, the premise of this debate and everything, the left is more violent. I know it. My opponent knows it. James knows it. The audience can see it with their own eyes. We deal with it all of the time. We're dealing with new things every day. If anything, we're just desensitized to it at this stage. And yet, the attempted gaslighting by the left, pretending that these patterns don't exist or minimizing them, is intolerable. Today, we're going to expose the reality. The modern left tolerates excuses and in many cases engages in political violence. And it's time to call it out for what it is. So with that, I will hand it off to Brenton.
Brent, we're ready for your opening statement.
Hey folks, Brenton Lengel here, just back. I am a poet, playwright, Appalachian Trail 2000 miler, and thrice Ringo Award nominated comic creator, author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse, Darude Shadow of the People, and newly NPCs, Myth, Magic, and Retail, which is basically Game of Thrones meets Bob's Burgers, because that's what the world needs in 2025. Anyway, James asked me to do this, and I was really excited, so I'm just going to jump right into my opening statement. The topic tonight, is the left more violent than the right, is a natural one to have in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And as someone who was in talks to debate Charlie, it hits a bit closer to home than most. When these tragedies happen, people naturally look for an explanation because I would assume most of us don't want to be shot, nor do we want our loved ones or communities to experience the kind of horrific fallout from an actual flesh and blood human being violently ripped out of existence. And this goes double for those of us who believe in free speech. The idea that someone we don't know might kill us completely out of the blue is not one that we can sit with. We want to know how it happened, why it happened, and what we can do to make sure it never happens again. And yet, It keeps happening despite our best efforts. Now, I bring this up because the topic itself, is the left more violent than the right, in terms of the modern first world, and especially the USA, is a natural one, despite it actually being, in terms of debate, one of the most cut and dry topics that anyone could debate in all of human history. The answer is no. Objectively, no, a million times no. As surely as 2 and 2 make 4, the left is presently less violent than the right by far. I could quote studies and crime statistics all night, but that would be intensely boring, and I don't think I would persuade most of the people here. Still, just to get it out of the way, here are a few. In 2021 study, Far Left versus Far Right, published in Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Law Society, over 30 years, 1990 to 2020, researchers found, quote, over the last 3 decades, the overall prevalence and deadliness of the far right far outweighs the far left, despite far left violence increasing in recent years. The right-wing Cato Institute concurs. Out of all of the ideologically motivated murders, excluding 9/11, between 1975 and 2025, the far right was responsible for 63% of ideological murders, and the far left just 10%, the remaining 23% being jihadis. If you include 9/11, then according to Cato, the right is responsible for 11% and the left just 2% of the killings, all the rest of those being chalked up to jihadists. That CCJL study actually has a breakdown of all the ideologically motivated extremist homicides. Just shy of 85% of the ideological murders have been committed by the far right, while only 15.6% were carried out by the far left. Now, they also break it down by weapon type, ideological strength, the specific ideological motivations, and presidential administration. And ironically, the worst administration for this happening was Bill Clinton's second term. 19.4% of all right-wing murders and 7.1% of all left-wing murders happened under Clinton. The first Trump administration had a high uptick of killings on both sides, 11% of the right's 85% and 40% of the left's 15% took place under Trump, which is a huge uptick from where the left was beforehand. And honestly, while it's up there, it is by no means the most fatal year for right-wing violence. But here's the thing. If you look at this chart, the highest ideological motivation isn't what you'd necessarily expect. Through the culture war narrative, we're told that Antifa chaos goblins, dangerous anarchists, are functioning as terror cells. But out of all of the far left murders, only 3 are ideologically motivated by anti-government sentiments. Similar anti-police sentiment contains only 6 leftist murders over the course of 30 years. The number one motivation from both sides is anti-race/ethnicity violence. 33.3% of all ideologically motivated murders by leftists and 42.7% by the far right, respectively. Even anti-social minorities, which would include anti-LGBTQ murders, make up only 32.2% by the far right. So most of these murders aren't being carried out for the reasons that the news is telling us. If you flip on the TV or listen to the Trump administration, the people newly listed as terrorists, well, it's not anarchists, it's not anti-fascists, nor trans activists, nor anti-capitalist, nor anti-police or anti-Christian, it's race. That's what Americans are actually being killed over, which means that this is primarily a battle between militant black nationalists and militant white nationalists. The second biggest category is gay bashing, for lack of a better word, and the rest, well, they barely register. And you want to know the craziest thing? The total number of people who have been murdered over the last 30 years for political reasons is, excluding 9/11 and the Oklahoma City bombing, just 269. Let that sink in. 269 murders, 42 coming from the left and 227 coming from the right, in a country of 340 million people. There were 22,830 murders just in 2023 alone, and we're dealing with 269. Yet this is the wolf at the door that our government wants us to believe is the reason for curtailing our own civil liberties. The right to privacy, the right to due process, the right to speak our minds, the recent attacks on the First Amendment by Trump gutting the Fourth Amendment, all of this is so that they can protect us from ourselves, or Antifa, or whatever other bugaboo these charlatans trot out next. And they do this while they drop our pay, raid our pensions, and steal what little access to health care we have. And of course, our media is complicit because hate and fear are big business. The goal of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and MSNBC and Fox News and OAN and TikTok, all of it is a bad puppet show. That's what the culture war is. It's bait. It is a trap designed for you. So the next time you see that shit, don't take it. See, there's this thing called mean world syndrome. It used to just happen to old people because retirees stay home all day and watch the news, and this creates an irrational fear of the outside world because the news is a business, and that business is to keep your attention no matter what. And the best way to do that is to make you angry and afraid. And to bring it back to where we started, not the right, not the left, but our politicians and our media is most likely what is driving the few ideologically motivated murderers we've seen, which would also explain the somewhat incoherent politics that we know of the Charlie Kirk murder. So yeah, I centered this on murders because I think that's the most important thing. That's the thing that everybody cares about. We can definitely talk about, psychological violence if you want to, or structural violence, or however you want to do it. But, if we're talking about bodies hitting the floor, it's just not the left, and it's not a big problem. Like, I'm sure it's a huge problem for people who are impacted by it. But overall, a country of 341 million people, this is not something you have to be afraid of.
Thank you very much for that opening. We're going to jump into the open dialogue at first. Folks, if you have not heard, if you've been living in a cave on Mars with your fingers in your ears, DebateCon 6 is in Nashville, Tennessee this November 15th and 16th. Grab your tickets in the link in the description box. You can see people such as Jake of Rattlesnake TV, Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson, Made by Jim Bob, Inspiring Philosophy, Apostate Prophet, Dr. Richard. It goes on and on. It is going to be the biggest conference yet, I guarantee it. So many people have signed up. Folks, you don't want to miss it. Get your tickets right now at the link in the description box. With that, we're going to jump over to the open dialogue. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Floor is all yours.
Jake, you're muted.
Let me just swing over there and make sure.
Sorry, yes. First of all, I'd like to make sure that we can agree on a definition of what political violence actually is, because I think that maybe we have contrary definitions here. Brenton, can we agree that political violence is the use of force, coercion, intimidation, or damage to property by individuals or groups to influence political outcomes or punish opponents?
I'm okay with doing that. However, I think that there are levels of political violence, and the more serious should be weighted much more heavily than the less serious.
Yeah. So you said that the study that you were citing there was over the past 30 years?
Over the past 30 years, yeah.
So it doesn't take into account the LA riots in the 90s? It doesn't take into account the LA riots in the 90s?
No, it starts at 1990. So it does take into account the LA
35
riots.
years.
So what I have here is it's not, no. Okay, so there were 3 studies, but the 2 that I focused mainly on, one was Cato Institute, which was 1975 to 2025.
I thought you said the modern day left.
Yeah, then the other one was 1990 to 2020.
I thought you said the modern day left. Are we talking about the left now, or are we talking about the left over the past 50, 60 years? Because you added the caveat of modern day left here.
We're talking about, so I don't know where you want to put the delineation. Like I said, 1990 to 2020 is a good range to see this over time. And then, of course, also Cato handled, if you don't want to look at the 1975, Cato handled that, the 5 years from 2020 to now.
Okay, and so which study do you want to look into first?
I mean,
which one is the key one? What's your favorite one?
There's no key one. These are just facts.
The pillar of your argument. So which one do you want to look into first?
I don't know. Take your pick. Let's do the CCJL.
CCJL. Can you link me the study or?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very interesting for a debate. I don't think I've ever been pouring through studies on that. That's not usually how this works, but if you want me to, I'll be game. So hang on.
Yep.
Let's find it.
So the CCJL study, and could you have a rough overview of what this is?
Yeah, it's hang on. I could tell you, but then I would not be able to type this in and find it. So just give me a second. Bear with me. Okay. Study.
Brenton checks this out. Folks, check out our new memberships. We have 3 levels. You don't want to miss them. Check them out right now, including immunity from slow mode for the live chat. Give you a chance, Brent.
Yeah, here we go. Send this across in the chat. Is this a thing we're doing for debates now? Is this like some weird what is
You
it?
should know about the studies that you're
Jubilee
citing.
stuff? No, I know. I'm fine with the stuff citing. It's just I've never actually like it's pretty dry to just sit here and go through a debate. We can
I want to know about the methodology of the study, and I want to know about who funds the
it's right
study
there. I just
and
sent it
who
to
they
you.
are.
But yeah, the CCJLS. This is the yeah, here we go. The title is Far Left versus Far Right Fatal Violence, an Empirical Assessment of the Prevalence of Ideologically Motivated Homicides in the United States.
Right. So you're talking about, this is only talking about fatal violence.
Yes, because that's the most important kind of violence, and that's the one that I prepared for, specifically because of
You just
the Charlie
agreed
Kirk
to the other
assassination.
definition, which is coercion and intimidation
I mean,
and all these sorts of things.
I
This is
agreed
clearly
to it
political
for the
violence.
purpose of the debate going forward, but I didn't know that that was the definition until like you came in and said the definition. We didn't go over this beforehand.
That's,
So like,
well, we're in the
if you
debate
wanna
now,
keep it
so
to-
we agree to definitions during debates. This is what happens during a debate. You agreed to the definition, and now you're just focusing on one meta part of the definition.
Let me explain. My opening statement is what is focusing on one definition, because I was most concerned with murders, because this is in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which was a murder. Now, you said in your opening statement, which I did not know you would say, that you wanted to talk about violence beyond simply just murders. And I'm fine with doing that. We can do that going forward. But the fact is, you can't retroactively blame me for having a more specific definition than your more general definition. Now, if we had said this beforehand, before the debate even started, maybe we should have done that. Then that's one thing. But like, otherwise, there's nothing there, dude.
This is pretty clear cut, dude. We're talking about political violence. We're not talking about political violence that results in murder. We're talking about, that's the topic of the debate is political violence. You just agreed to a definition of political violence. So does acts like arson and mob violence and intimidation, do they not count as political violence? Yes, but
not to the degree that murders count.
But they're still political violence. So that's what we're debating about. We're not debating about political vialence that ends up in murder.
I mean, if you want to sit here and be like, if you want me to sit down and go and look for like what the statistics on arson are and what the statistics on poisoning are and what the statistics of like saying a mean thing are, like I can do that. But again, that would be something that I would have to prepare for ahead of time, where specifically I prepared for murders. Now, if, as I said, I am perfectly opening to talking more broadly about it. However, if we're going to talk more broadly about it, we have to actually do that. Like you don't just like chide me for not reading your mind and knowing exactly what definition you wanted to use before I.
I think that I was perfectly good faith about it. I came in and the first thing I said is, let's agree to a definition. You agreed to the definition. Okay.
You will find that I agreed to the definition after your opening statement.
And then I asked you what study you were looking for, and this one was only looking at one part. So it doesn't look at a comprehensive look. Are you just going to interrupt every time I speak? I was pretty nice to you, actually.
Hold on 1 sec.
I wasn't saying you were being mean to me. I'm just saying you're seizing on something that's not important. If you want to have this discussion,
the definition's not important.
Fine with having that discussion.
Okay,
definitions
but I think it's fair. Hold on 1 sec. I do think it's fair just to try to converge on a single definition. There will be more productivity.
I am fine with that going forward. I just can't go back in time and change my definition and change all of my research.
Okay, so what's the one we agree on? What's the one we agree on going forward?
I am fine with opening up the discussion to include more kinds of things other than murder.
Then let's do it.
I think murder is the most serious, and that should carry the most weight.
Shush, please. We're gonna, all right, pardon my, but here we go right now. We're going to do that right now. Using the definition that you both just agreed on, gentlemen, please continue the conversation.
Okay, so you brought up a lot of different studies. We're talking about the modern day left here. And when it's not just about murder, tell me what your data set is and how that data set is compiled.
I mean, do you want to know what the data set in the study is? Because they say that in there. Or do you want to know, like,
I want to know which study you're talking about, and I want to know how you get a comprehensive view that the left
okay,
is more
I
does more political
literally
violence.
just sent that to you. It's the CCJLS.
So that's
You
only
look
about
down at-
murders.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about political violence. We're not just talking about murders. Okay, we're talking about political violence as a whole. And you can look
Yes.
sad about it. I don't want you to be sad about it.
It's not that I'm
You
looking
look
sad about it. I'm just a
I
little
don't want you to be sad
exasperated.
about it. I want you to be chipper and in good spirits throughout the entirety of this debate.
Dude, I'm perfectly fine and chipper and in good spirits.
All right. Well, give me your evidence then, please. I can't wait to hear it.
My evidence for what?
That the left wing, that the right wing, that the left wing isn't more political, doesn't engage in more political violence based upon the definition that we agreed on.
Based upon the definition that we agreed upon, sure. I will say that based upon the definition we agreed upon, murders should count far more strongly than any other form of political violence. Because I mean, if we go all the way down to, you know, violence meaning mean things that somebody says, you weigh that against a person being dead. I don't feel like you could take all of the non-murdery violence and put it all together, and it would still be overwhelmed by the murdery violence if we're trying to say overall whether the left is more guilty of this or the right. Now, if you want to go and specifically go in and say, oh, okay, well, the left, you know, Antifa goes into street protests and they throw, I don't know, trash cans through Starbucks windows or something, then the left probably does that more than the right. But also football fans do that. So, like, the point is that if you want to be general, we can be general. If you want to be specific, you can be specific, but we can't be both at the same time. Just figure out like which is which, and then we come to our conclusion.
I think it's pretty obvious what I want to do, which is to not just base it upon one thing. I think we're talking about the spectrum of political violence. So we're talking about coercion, we're talking about intimidation. And I think that anybody with two eyes, anecdotal evidence is not a good argument, obviously, but anybody with two eyes can see that if a conservative goes to a college campus, just as one example, they need all kinds of security. They're going to get chased out. They could get potentially murdered. If Destiny goes to a college campus, his security is not so erudite.
So that is part of the game that conservatives play. That's what Ann Coulter does. That's what freaking Milo, you got to Google his last name to spell it, Opolis does. They specifically try to make people angry so people come out and protest them so that the news cameras come and cover them and their message goes further. So yeah, I mean, are you going to piss off a bunch of college students if you're like a hard right conservative and you come in there and I don't know, tell them like they're going to hell or gay people are evil? Yeah, you're going to get protested on a college campus. College students are notoriously left wing, and that's part of the learning process. So like
part of the learning process. And then, they come out of it by the time they're 23 or 4, they get a head on their shoulders and they stop being left wing.
Possibly. It really depends upon, I guess, their individual life circumstances. But yeah, most kids start off fairly conservative. I know you and I kind of had like an opposite thing because like when I was young, I was like Mr. Young GOP. Was really into like the first Bush and stuff.
Redirecting us back to the violence.
And I think you said you started on the left. But my point is that there are phases within your life and phases within society that people will tend to move in one direction or another. And college is the one where they tend to move left for a while because that's the whole point.
Look, to be honest, we're not even looking at violence. We're not looking at why or like the fact that people are left wing when they're younger or whatever. What we're talking about is the demonstrable violence that goes on when a conservative like Cam Higby recently went out to a college campus and he was assaulted and he was spat on. People, they chased him out of there for wearing a MAGA hat and having conservative ideas. The Tesla dealerships were burned. All these conservatives who are going to Portland at the moment are being assaulted. Please tell me where this is happening on the right. I really would love to know.
I mean, the right are like shooting up mosques and churches and stabbing. They're murdering black people.
The right are shooting up mosques and churches. Where is this happening?
Tree of Life shooting. If I'm remembering, the Gladius was in New York. Specifically, it was done, I think around 59th Street. Though it might have been, never. But basically, a white nationalist came in, murdered an old black man with a Gladius because he was black for no other reason than that. As I said, most of the murders are race-based, and that's on both the right and the left.
So why?
had
How's that political violence?
you you murdered a guy because you don't like black people and you don't want them to have rights. That's political violence.
Where
That's
did he
terrorism.
express that?
Literally to the police, like after he was caught. He specifically said, "I did this because I'm a white nationalist." So
Right.
yeah.
So all the black people who are killing. So you'd say Irina Zhurutska, that was obviously a political violence. An example.
I'm not familiar with that person or that.
Irina Zhurutska was the Ukrainian girl who was killed on the train recently, and he said, "I got that white girl."
I mean, that guy. If you want to say
here
that,
we go. Of course, when the shoe's on the other foot, it's never counted.
No,
and this is why
again,
the left wing, you guys are just so dishonest about this, and it just comes out like that. It's almost just too easy to draw it out of you. You've said that one person is a race-based political violence, and then the other person is not. Irina, that wasn't political, obviously.
The person who killed
Give me a break,
the Ukrainian woman. I was actually going to say you might consider that race-based.
Oh, you might.
Violence.
You might. He said, "I got that white girl."
Well, yes, you might consider that. Again, if you look at the study that I sent you, it specifically has both the fact that like the reasons for committing the crime, but also the level of ideology involved in it. And from what I can tell in the story of that guy, he wasn't part of any particular anti-white organizations. He wasn't a black nationalist. He was a guy that society failed at every point, and then it eventually,
he's a victim.
I mean, in a way, everyone's a victim all the time.
He's like the hungry people who are stealing just because they're hungry.
I would say he's batshit insane, and he killed somebody.
Oh yeah, and the white
acting...
guy who walked into the place and shot the black guy, he was just fine upstairs. He was just your full chips and dip, wasn't he?
So when, for instance, when the Nazi went into New York and murdered the black man with a gladius, he was behaving logically from his perspective. It's still wrong. It's still evil. He's working on the wrong assumptions there. But there is a level of sanity that you would not find in a random homeless person who just stabbed the person in front of them for absolutely no reason and they said, "Well, I got her because she's white." Now, as I said, you can actually classify that under the framework that I have, and it would count. But it would also probably fit into the less ideologically motivated things, because I think the major thing with regard to that guy was that he was just literally insane, and his mother had to have him kicked out of her house because he became violent with her. So obviously that guy's
I get your point, but I just want the audience to know this right now. Okay, what we are dealing with right now is the typical obfuscation of the left and how they contrive narratives. And he knows it. I know it. You guys all know it listening to this. They're going, I'll let you speak and you'll be silent.
All right, fair enough.
You'll be silent while I speak. All right. So the left-wing violence, they're not going to count people like Irina Zhurutska. They will happily, any white person who basically commits a crime, they're going to call this political violence. But then with Irina Zhurutska, I don't know, society really hurt this guy and he really fell off the rails and we should have helped him more. But the white guy, nothing like that. They're also not going to count all of the violence that was done by BLM, for example, and the murders and the deaths that happen during left-wing riots and all of these different deaths that happen. This is how the left contrives narratives. And if you go into these studies that he's talking about, and if you look who funds these studies, oftentimes what do you get? You get the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, you get the Rockefeller brothers, you get all of these different sources of funding, and these people who are moderates, or at least they pose themselves as moderates, are really just left-wing activists. And it's the same with the DAs around everywhere. And what he is espousing right now is this exact same left-wing ideology, where they will try and dishonestly contrive a narrative to make the right look worse, when everybody can see it. We know we're being gaslit by people like Brenton. We know it. We can see it with our own two eyes, and the data crumbles just like that.
Yeah, if nothing else, call a man a liar. I will point out that appeal to motive is a fallacy. So even if something's funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, billionaires fund just about everything. So I wouldn't be surprised about literally anything, including right-wing think tanks like the Heritage Foundation. Those are also founded usually by oil money. Now, for the CCJLS, this specifically, it looks like it's from SUNY, so State University of New York in Oswego, or at least that's where the main researcher is
All
from.
those conservative universities, hey?
I mean, universities are slightly more conservative than people would think, particularly with regard to their economics programs. Now, obviously, criminal justice, I'd say you'd get a mix. You'd probably get some activist professors in there, and you'd probably also get some hard asses who, you know, really want to just stick it to the criminals. What I would like you to do is talk to me and not to the left. Because first off, again, I am not part of the left. I've disassociated myself with the left in 2015, and I did it because I felt pressure to say things that I didn't believe. I don't want team bias to ever infect my thinking. So I am not going to do things that will put me into column A or column B, because that just makes me dumber. Now, if you want to talk about the left obfuscating things, obviously, yes, people can obfuscate things, but do you want to have a nuanced discussion, or do you want to have a broad discussion? We can do either one. We just can't do both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to have the broad discussion. I mean, look, we're having a discussion about political violence and the definition of political violence. And excuse me for thinking that you can't actually talk to leftists like you. So I'm trying to actually appeal to the audience here. Yes, I'm technically talking to you, but I'm actually trying to appeal to the audience here, because people know what you're doing. They can intuit it, but perhaps they can't actually put it, like, they can't actually see exactly how it's done. And I'm trying to demonstrate how this is actually done. And this is why people like yourself who will go, you can interrupt me all you want, or you can be silenced while I'm talking. Thank you, Brenton. Thank you. Okay. And what I'm trying to demonstrate is how people like yourself will obfuscate data. And that example of Irina Zhurotska was the perfect example, because that was a clear double standard. And then you had to backpedal because you realized that you realized that you had a massive double standard there, because you assigned motives to one, and then you assigned good motives to the other one. The other one was that he needed help. He needed help. But I think that the more important thing that we should discuss, the Nazi
also needed help in society, because yes, the Nazi who killed the black man also.
There'll be silence. There'll be silence in the court.
I want to give Jake a chance to finish up his thoughts, and I promise we'll come back to you, Brenton. We'll give you the same approximately 1 or 2 minutes to respond.
Absolutely.
There'll be silence in the court. Okay, so all I want to know, Brenton, is arson at political rallies, mobs attacking ICE facilities, burning down police precincts, vandalism, targeted vandalism with political motives. If all of these things are, in fact, political violence, where is this happening en masse on the right? Because all you've been able to give me is a shitty study that only looks at one aspect, and also a few little examples, anecdotal examples, as opposed to all of the examples that we can give, which is when it happens en masse. Tell me, Brenton.
So first off, I'm going to point out that ad hominem is also a fallacy. And even if I was the most biased, evil person in the world who was just trying to trick you with all my fancy words, and that wouldn't make me wrong. That would literally just make me a bad person. And like, I'm not trying to be your roommate, dude. We're just having a conversation. Now, if you want to know why leftists or liberals and progressives, I don't really know who exactly is doing the Tesla burnings. If you want to know why they're going after Tesla, it's probably because Elon Musk was doing stuff like destroying Social Security. And to express their anger, they destroyed his property, which is bad and wrong. And I will denounce that from now until the fucking cows come home, because political violence doesn't work. Yep. However, that is, if you look, when people are going to be violent, whether it is the right or the left, they tend to target different things because they care about different things.
I don't care why they do it, Brenton. Is it political violence is what we want to know.
Of course it's political violence. Jesus
Christ. Then you lose the debate, buddy, because where's all that political violence happening on the right?
The debate is who has it more.
Yes, exactly. So tell me where it's happening en masse on the right. I really can't wait to hear it, please.
I mean, en masse on the right, the freaking Trump administration is committing what is essentially a genocide in the United States.
Please explain how the Trump administration is committing genocide in the United States.
The definition of genocide is an attempt to destroy an ethnic or several other categories, but in this category, ethnic or national population in whole or in part. And the Trump administration has done two things specifically. Is one, they're deporting people from the United States without due process based upon their race, not based upon what they have done. They will say that they did things, but then they don't go to court to prove it. And then the other thing that they did was, and this is in, again, the Geneva Convention's definition of genocide, they are stealing children, or they were at least back during the first administration, stealing children from their parents, which taking children from one group and transferring them to another group is an act of genocide. So, yeah, the mass political violence is currently coming from the Trump administration, and that is coming from the right because the Trump administration is a far-right institution. They don't have the luxury of having to, the leftists don't have the luxury of having the state on their side. Now,
all right,
that
cool.
could
I don't need your life story every time I ask a question, Brenton. So when you're talking about that, then they called Obama the deporter in chief. Was Obama committing a genocide?
I would say quite possibly. Honestly.
Okay, so then how's it happening more on the right than the left?
I would say you didn't ask. Okay. The overall question of how it's happening more on the right and the left results to everything, not just exactly what we're talking about. Now, specifically with regard to deportations, you asked what is the right doing in terms of mass violence, and I'm telling you the deportations are mass.
And you just said that the
violence,
left also does that, Brenton. This is not looking good.
I said that the left deports. But again, the left is not trying to eliminate a national or racial group within the United States. At least I would hope Obama.
So they had good intentions. Once again, guys, when the left does it, they have good intentions. When the left does it, they are doing it because they have good intentions. When the right does it, guys, we're evil. When the right does it, we're evil. Different genocide motives. Now, Brenton knows the motives.
So mad about?
Brenton knows the motives, guys. James, seriously, I told you not to get me any prostitutes to debate with. Next time, can you also not get me any comic book people? Because this is honestly embarrassing.
Okay, so first
he was
off,
so
I'm
sure
not
when he
simply
came
a
into the
comic
debate.
book person, and second of all, again, this is just an ad hominem. Can you just have a discussion about literally, I'm in here trying to relate with you, coming in here, being good faith, and all you're trying to do.
You're not good faith. You can try and act friendly. You can try and act like you're all friendly. Oh, I'm friendly. I'm good faith. I call myself the friendly anarchist. You're not, dude. You're bad faith. You're trying to contrive a narrative. This is what all of you leftists do, and we're sick of it. We're sick of being gaslighted.
Ad hominem,
we're sick of the gaslighting.
Unjustified equivocation.
Okay, great argument, bro. Anyways, shall we move on?
I'm telling you, dude, everything you were saying is literally as much as 2 + 3 = 17. That is the logic equivalent of what you are doing when you try to argue that I'm doing something evil secretly and that I'm trying to trick your audience.
I don't think you're doing it secretly. I think you're actually pretty brazen about it. And some people who might be fooled by this, but honestly, you said that there was a difference between Irina Zhurutska and between the whites. I know you want to talk over me because you're very scared because you're getting absolutely steamrolled every time you open your mouth. I know you're scared of me. I'm a Lord Rattlesnake, and I know you're scared of the Lord. But listen to me,
I actually
Brenton.
really like rattlesnakes.
You said that there was a difference between Irina Zhurutska and the white supremacist. You got proven wrong there. That was not a good look, Brenton. You have to say it wasn't a good look. And then you said that there was a difference between when Trump deports people and Obama. Brenton, it is not looking good, brother.
There are differences. Well, first of all, I love that the judge and the advocate are the same one. The guy who wants to win the debate is the one who's telling me it's not looking good, brother. Again, it's just a bullshit tactic, and you don't have to do it. And you don't have to do it with me because, again, I don't have the time or the energy or the freaking spoons to deal with all this culture war bullshit. I am specifically getting down to brass tacks with you, and I'm having a real conversation with you, or at least I am trying to. Now, you can engage or not engage.
All right, I'm happy to actually take this to your home ground if you want. Do you want to argue about fatalities? Because everything else you are limp
I'm fine arguing about
fatalities.
Stuff.
Do you want to
I think are the most
fatalities? Okay,
if
fantastic.
you want to talk fatalities, we can talk fatalities.
Did they include the LA riots in your studies? Yes. And did they include the George Floyd protests? And if so, prove it.
George Floyd, I don't know if they
demonstrate
George Floyd, but they almost definitely would have if there were murders committed for racial reasons or political reasons during the LA riots. They would have included them in the study.
So you don't know if they included them?
I mean, I know that they specifically excluded the Oklahoma City bombing, so I'm pretty sure that they made sure to do their due diligence. How many people do you think were murdered in the LA riots?
63
63. Now, was that 63 deaths or 63 murders?
dead in the LA riots.
Okay, so not murder.
So this is
just
political
dead.
violence happened at the riot.
Okay.
Dead from political violence from the left. Okay.
All right. So first
Brenton,
off,
I'm going to give you a chance to retract that statement if you want to. I'm going to give
gonna
you a
point
chance
out-
right now. I'm going to be good faith, and you can say, Jake, I retract the statement that the right wing is more fatally violent. I'm going to give you that chance right now, Brenton. You have 30 seconds on the clock.
This is the dumbest thing I have had to deal with in like at least a month. Okay, so first off, when you were talking LA riots, you are citing the dead specifically, supposedly 68 dead. I don't know. But I don't know how many of those 68 were targeted for political reasons. I don't know if someone was trying to pull like propaganda of the deed. I don't know if they freaking fell over or had a heart attack. Just like the right, or I'm sorry, like the Democrats always bring up that one police officer that died after January 6th, like, and he had like a heart attack. Or something so he was not a healthy man to begin with, and it was just sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, I would say that death would not be on the MAGA movement, because unless there was intent to actually kill that guy, or they were negligent in how brutally they treated him, then it's not actually a political murder, even though it's happening in the Capitol, because murders can happen for all sorts of situations and all sorts of contexts. So yeah, like I said, you need to get, if you want to talk murders and if you want to talk like specifics, you've got to get very specific and find out like who did the killing. Why did they do the killing? Can we believe them? And how strongly did their political ideology inform this action? That's going to tell you, that's going to help you get a feel for exactly like where the violence is coming from, where the most significant violence is coming from.
Okay, now I think I've been pretty good faith. Let you talk for a little while here, Brenton. I want you to just answer me this question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you say that they included the LA riots when you didn't know that?
Okay.
Why did you lie?
So again, I didn't. You're putting words in my mouth. And second of all, that's the kind of question like, when did you stop beating your wife? It's called begging the question. You're assuming the
How's it
answer
begging
is
the
true
question?
in the premise.
How's it begging the question? Please explain that to me. Explain how I'm begging the question here. When I just ask you a question, you answered the question.
Okay, so repeat the question to me and I will point out exactly what you're doing.
Okay, at the start of this debate, I asked you, Brenton, did they include the LA riots in this study that you're talking about? You said yes, they did.
I said
I didn't say Brenton.
Mhm.
I didn't try and beg the question and say they did. I'm assuming that you're lying about this.
No, that's
I
not
just
what
said
begging
Brenton
the
did they. I
question
asked you
is.
a good faith question.
So when you frame the question in why did you do this bad thing that you definitely did, which by the way, I don't recall saying that, or if I did, I possibly misspoke, because that's a thing that can very easily happen.
Well, wait. So if you did say that, then I would be right. So that I'm not begging the question.
No, you'd still be begging the question, because you're assuming the answer.
I'm not assuming. You lied. I'm not assuming that you lied. I saw you lie. The whole audience saw you lie.
Yeah. Okay, dude. Like, first off, that's not a lie. Second of all,
I'm pretty sure that's a lie. I'm pretty sure you said something that wasn't true and you knew it wasn't true.
Hang on.
Pretty sure that's a lie.
You just said that I knew it wasn't true.
I would have been sent to my room for that as a child.
Most likely what I said, or at least what I intended to say,
I would have been sent to bed early. I couldn't watch the show in Idle.
And in fact, I think I tried to say that, and then you cut me off. If there were racially or politically motivated murders during the LA riots, well, the LA riots happened during the 1990s. This study covers the 1990s to 2000, so obviously that would be included in the study. So if they didn't include it in the study for whatever reason, take that up with them. But like at this point, that's not really relevant, because they could have included or not included anything. There could be exceptions. I'm sure there are.
So interesting, Brenton. I mean, in that study that you're saying, I think there are only about 78 deaths that are included from left-wing violence. But with the two riots alone, the George Floyd protests and also the LA riots, there's about 90 deaths. So
the deaths are not necessarily
so your study is, I mean, Brenton,
it
wasn't going well for you before when we were looking at the meta of political violence, the broader spectrum of political violence. was not going well for you. And I've actually been so kind to you, Brenton. I have
That's what you
literally held your hand and walked you across the road. And now we're on your home turf, which is deaths. And your deaths statistics are also completely astroturfed.
Please explain to me how every single death that happens during a riot is a politically motivated death.
So these riots were done by the left. They were rioting in the streets, and all of these deaths happened. Now, do you think that they would be including the deaths if there was deaths at J6 or if there were deaths at Charlottesville? Do you think that they would be including them in politically motivated deaths?
It depends upon the specific study, but I would assume that they would.
You best believe they would. Thank you, Brenton.
But again, what you're doing is this is a hasty equivocation. Just because someone dies in the vicinity of a riot or even as part of a riot does not mean that they're part of the left, and it does not mean that they were killed for political reasons. That people can have accidents. People can just die for no reason whatsoever. That again, as I pointed out, that I don't think that the death of the police officer at the Capitol riots, like on January 6th, who had the heart attack or the heart condition or whatever, like, I don't think that that is necessarily a politically motivated killing. I don't think the J6ers were trying to kill that guy. And I'm not, I didn't see the confrontation, but I'm not sure if whoever happened to be there was behaving particularly negligently or not. I don't know. So again, this is why you have to break this stuff down. This is why you have to, be very specific about what you're talking about, because when you deal in these kinds of vague generalities, you're just appealing to vibes, and that's not a compelling argument. I mean, it may be compelling to some people, but it's not logical, and therefore it's not in good faith.
It would appear as though I'm the only one here that is actually looking into the details of things, because you're citing your citing studies, Brenton. There'll be silence while I'm speaking. There'll be silence in the court while I'm speaking.
You're not a judge, dude.
Brenton. There will be order in the court while I'm speaking.
It's Judge Jake from now on, Brenton. Okay,
there'll be order in my court.
No, it's fine. If he wants to go on a power trip, he can go on a power trip.
Brenton, there'll be order while I'm speaking, okay? And it appears as though only one of us here is actually being thorough, because I'm simply diving into your numbers here, Brenton. You're trying to tell me about all of these deaths. We're talking about deaths by political violence, sure. When you talk about deaths by political violence, you are contriving a narrative. And we saw that at the start of the debate. Every single person here saw it. You had a different standard. And this is what happens with these studies. Every time people bring up these studies, they have a different standard for what constitutes left and right political violence. This has been exposed. I know it hurts, Brenton, when it gets exposed, but it's been exposed. It was exposed not only in your rhetoric, but also in these bullshit studies that you are citing. I know you're sad. That's why you're speaking. You don't want to let me. You don't want to let me speak. I don't want you to be sad. I prefer you to be happy, okay? But seriously,
I am very happy, my friend.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
I love this shit.
I'm genuinely glad that you're happy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good. But anyways, what I was saying before, I've been the only one who's been actually thorough in this debate, because I'm trying to dive into the numbers that you're giving. I'm giving lots of different examples. We can see it with our eyes everywhere. All of the violence that's going around, particularly around the United States. This is all left-wing violence that's happening at the moment. They're the ones who are burning down the cities. They're the ones who are attacking government facilities. They are the ones who are doing these mass protests and assaulting conservatives. Conservatives are the ones getting chased off campus. It is absolutely obvious. And in order to try and gaslight people, which is what you're trying to do, and which all of you people on the left try and do, you say, I'm not on the left. You are, clearly. In order to try and gaslight people, you actually have to provide a compelling data set. And what you've provided so far is absolutely
grab
bullshit.
This thing, go to page 7.
Cool.
If you pop on down to page 7, you're going to see just above the two big graphs, you're going to see the specifically ideologically motivated extremist homicides in the United States, 1990 to 2020. Now, homicide incidents across total incidents, this breaks it down to far left v far right, it breaks it down to individual murder, it breaks it down to weapon type, it breaks it down to ideological strength and specific ideological motivation, and it even does who the president was when these killings took place. So generally appealing to some number of people who might have died in the LA riots is not being thorough. It is not even being thorough. It is specifically being general and then telling people that you're being thorough and you're hoping they'll believe you. Now, again, if all else fails, call a man a liar. I don't think that you necessarily are lying when you say you feel these ways and you want to talk about these things, but I do think that it is invalid to say that you are being thorough and I'm trying to hypnotize your audience with my fancy falutin words. Like, again, it's right here specifically. So we've
First
got
of all,
what,
you're
the
not going to be hypnotizing my
Arson
audience. My
bomb
audience, they're
3.
pretty switched on units, my audience, and they
I
will not be
wouldn't-
hypnotized by you. You may think that
I
you're
wouldn't
falutin,
care
but you're
if I
maybe
did.
perhaps not as falutin as you think you are, Brenton.
Oh my
Don't
God.
think that you can
Well,
convince
dude, you're
any
the
of
one,
us.
you're the one who's like talking to me about like spinning a narrative. Like that's all humans ever do about anything. Every single thing that anybody says when they're giving you a thing, including you talking about me, trying to trick your audience, your impressionable audience, like that is
I'm
you
not impressionable
spinning a
enough to be
narrative.
falutined
That
by
is
you,
a
my friend.
story that you are telling to explain something that is happening. It's an
Oh.
incorrect story. I don't know why you're telling it. I don't appreciate it because it's a bit annoying and I put a lot of effort into this and actually prepared. But like, if you want
Okay,
to
Brenton,
accuse
come
someone
on.
of spinning a story, look in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, why don't you make a comic book about the story?
That would be very boring.
I could be the main character.
I'll tell you what, if you want to be the main character, give to my next Kickstarter. There's a level where you can actually get a cameo in the comic, or you can even become a character and I'd like build one directly around you. It's pretty cool.
Can we call it Lord Jake Destroys Stupid Anarchist?
No, but I'll tell you what, I could probably find some way to reference that cleverly, that someone who is in the know would get it, but somebody who's reading the comic would not be distracted by irrelevant information in a different universe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, James, I'm going to leave it to you to move the debate on or do whatever you want to do here.
I mean,
Are there
we
any
can
topics
stay
that-
here on the ideological strength, the anti-government. You were talking about murders and you were talking about arson bomb, 3 deaths to the far right, or I'm sorry, to the far left, and 0 arson from the far right. Seems that the far right doesn't seem to like to start very many fires. That's good. Blunt or bodily weapon, 0 from the far left, 15.9, 36 on the far right. Firearm, of course. 38 on the left, 100, or I'm sorry, 38 on the left, 126 on the far right. So it seems like that's the main weapon of choice. Not knife, sharp object, 1 on the far left, and 48 on the far right. And then I guess other would be however else somebody got killed.
Interesting. So this is over a period of 35 years, hey?
30 years. Again, 1990 to 2020. If you want the last 5 years, you look at the Cato
Okay.
Institute.
Well, interesting because, like we said before, the LA riots had nearly as many deaths as they've got recorded here. They've got 78 deaths recorded here, my friend.
But you don't know if literally any of them are for
We don't know if it's
political
the left-wing
reasons.
riot. We don't know if that was
Dude,
that might have just been they might have
ever
tripped.
been around a riot?
They might have
Have you
tripped
ever been
over.
around like a
Yeah,
big
true.
protest?
Yes, I have.
Okay, great. Where?
I've been around some all around. I was just around a few in Argentina, and I was around one in Germany recently.
What were they for?
Climate change and for butt sex, gay butt sex, you know.
Gay butt sex. So you went to gay pride parade and you're calling that a riot?
No. I went to a climate change protest where they were protesting also for gay butt sex.
For gay butt sex.
Yeah, you know how
Did
they have
literally
immigration
like a gay butt sex
and they're like,
sign?
we
'Cause
want
that's kind of hilarious.
gay butt sex. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Honestly, people at protests. So I was very active with Occupy Wall Street for most of the time that it was the thing. I was in protest after protest after protest. I went to the DNC and was also in DC, and then of course on the ground in New York. What I will tell you is that within protests, you have a large mix of people. You have people like college liberals who want to come out and kumbaya with everybody. You've got like pissed off traveler kids who, will identify usually with an anarchist or like a Marx-Leninist kind of thing. Then you've got like just straight up crazy people. Then you've got, probably usually like a large sorry, not large, I would say a small contingent of infiltrators who are specifically there trying to start shit. And then, of course, you will also get the people that are trying to be like the leaders of the movie. The point is that these situations are chaotic. And while the protest itself is political in nature, not everything that happens at the protest happens for political reasons. Does that make sense?
Yep. So I mean, there probably wasn't even one, hey, that was done
There
for
probably
political
wasn't
reasons.
even one what?
Death at that riot.
So
we should discount the whole thing because like we'd have to really get into the matter and we'd have to see the motives and we'd have to see why they did it, who they are. We'd have to see if they were hungry or if they were thirsty, if they needed some water. That's why they were hangry. Maybe they were a bit hangry.
This is appeal to ridicule. Again, this is illogical.
It deserves ridicule, my friend.
That doesn't matter. Look, the point is something can be silly and right. Someone can be bad and right. What matters is what they have said, the argument they have made, not the characterization of it. What's happening is that you're exploiting what's called the halo fallacy. People tend to attribute one part naturally to the part of everything. So, of course, one part of the LA riots, is this political thing. It's a large part. But then you're going and you're taking that and you're naturally attributing that to everyone and everything within the riot, which that's not accurate. It's not the reality. And now, if you want to say that the left in the LA riots engaged in property destruction, yeah, absolutely. I don't see why that wouldn't have happened. Occupy Wall Street, to a certain extent, engaged in property destruction. Leftists, like as we mentioned, some of their, whether you're on the far right or the far left, you will pick the specific crimes you're going to do. Right winger may come in with a gun. Left winger may decide to, I don't know. Nobody's really Molotoving anything, but maybe there were 3 arson on there. So, 3 arson in 30 years, still arson. And it doesn't seem like the right did any arson. So, these are different people with different tendencies is my point.
Okay. Well, look, here's what I'll say in conclusion for this point. They haven't included the LA riots. This is just one thing that they haven't included. If they haven't included that and any of the deaths that were involved in the LA riots, you can just imagine how many other things they also haven't included in there.
Oh my God.
Basically what I'm saying is that this entire data set is just, you can't take it seriously.
That's not how anything works, my friend. That is not how logic works. Again,
please explain to me. I can't wait to hear it.
Let's say
Tell me about how logic works.
I mean, okay. So as I said, that's a composition fallacy.
What are the 3 laws of logic?
The 3 laws of logic?
What are the 3 laws of logic?
I don't know. What do you want me to say?
Okay. No, I'll just leave it at that.
No,
anyways, carry on, my friend. Tell me how logic works. I can't wait to hear it, please.
The 3 laws of logic are not how rhetoric works specifically.
No, please tell me how logic works.
So if you want, say what?
Tell me how logic works. I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. So in the case of the study, for instance, let's say that the people who made the study are evil SJWs and they want to trick your audience and bamboozle them with all their words, but the data they put in there is still accurate and true. Does it matter that they're trying to bamboozle your audience? No, it doesn't, because what matters is the actual facts that are being reported on in the study. Now, if they did something wrong, if there are big issues with the methodology, you will find that out in peer review. There's an entire freaking institutional system to make sure the shit that you're accusing them of doesn't happen. But like, the thing is like, even if you are right, it does not mean that they are wrong.
Okay, I accept your closing statements.
That's on that topic. Are we done, or are we still going?
I think we've beaten that dead horse enough.
Okay, cool.
I do want to get to this. There are these recent polls done. I think that this is one that is a bit more interesting. Is it ever justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals? and I can't really share it with you, but basically younger liberals are far more likely. I mean, like double as likely, triple as
Is war ever
likely.
justified?
Sorry?
Is war ever justified?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, that's violence to achieve a political goal. Very
Yeah, no,
famously.
but we're talking about
War is politics by other means. So if a leftist is saying yes, it's okay to use violence to achieve political goals, and a right winger says yes, it's okay to go to war, that's the same statement. It's just wearing a different suit.
Yeah, but I think that we all know what people mean when they're saying political violence. We're not talking about war when we're talking about political violence, because that's institutional, right? We're talking about non-governmental actors, right? Even within the government, political violence does exist, but we're talking about non-governmental actors. I think that we can be good faith and say that, because if we're talking about war, then it would be a lot more than 10% of people.
By the state are always political. There is no action that the state can take that is not political, whether it's good or bad.
In order to be good faith in this debate, we have to be talking about non-state actors.
I don't see much of a difference between non-state actors and state.
And even if we're not talking about non-state actors, I can talk all day about how Democrats are encouraging of political violence and how they give a wink and a nod to all these people and all of the different DAs around America who, like, you can talk about that all day, but I'm generally speaking here, I'm talking about the broader left and the broader right and how they view domestic political violence. Because if we're talking about war, if we think war is political violence, then sure.
War is
then the left and right are both guilty of war, okay?
That can't possibly be in question. Like, war is literally political violence.
It is, yeah.
It's violence, but it's politics carried on by other means. Hence,
but that completely muddies the water if we're going to say is war political violence, because we know that.
Because again, if you're talking about people that support political violence, both the right and the left do, they just support it through different things. So if you're talking about like the freaking Democrats, who, by the way, I like categorically hate, and honestly, the second I saw that like Bill Clinton had the worst murders like during his term from both sides, like I was just like, oh yeah, right, super predators. You know, the liberals, they're the ones who are perfectly all right with police going in and brutalizing people. They have been since the 1990s, and that specific crime bill, which is probably what drove a large number of those murders. So they're good with channeling their violence, the state violence, against people they consider their enemies. In that case, it was black people in the ghetto. Now, then you've got the Republicans, let's say the neocons. The neocons love to channel political violence towards other countries, famously Iraq, Afghanistan, and engage in nation building because they see that as for the greater good. Then you have
they're hardly conservatives though, the neocons. But I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I'm not going to argue the semantics of it. They are Trotskyites, a lot of them. But anyways,
wait, they're Trots?
So some of them came from an old Trotskyite. If you look at some of the most prominent neocons in the early 2000s, they came from like a Trotskyite background. But anyways,
oh my God,
and they're hardly conservative. They have a direct conflict with the paleo conservatives of the earlier 20th century. But anyways,
yeah, no, okay, yeah, Trots are absolutely ridiculous. So that I'm going to look into that. That sounds really fun.
Good.
All right. So
just quickly, there's also another one though, because because like we're looking at data here. So there was a poll done for the justification of the murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Left of center, 50% of people said that that was okay. And the percent it says said partially justified or more. And then there's another one on the right here. And I think that they're two slightly different data sets, but it's similar sort of numbers. Left of center, about 56%. Said that it was justified to the murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Can you send me the poll?
Sure.
Great. And was this Pew Research? Was this Fox News? What was the
networkcontagion.us / you'll see it here.
Okay.
NCRI. Something like that.
Okay, I don't think I'm familiar with that thing, but let's take a look.
All right. How do I send something in the chat here?
Debate, people.
I think people like looking at the data. So percentage.
Bunch of nerds in your audience.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, So Rutgers University Social Perception Lab, Network Contagion Research Institute. All right, let's take a look here. And they polled. Reporters found widespread justification for lethal violence. That's what's it called? Disquieting. Spillover effect into the domains. Okay, murder justification. So here we go. Okay, survey. Who are they surveying and where?
So percentage of respondents overall and those self-identifying as left and right who find murder, selecting scores from 2 or 7 of the scales, murdering Trump, sources 1. Hold on a sec.
Yeah.
All right.
So, because what I'm looking for is one, how many people that they surveyed, and because sometimes with very, very small surveys, you can just through sheer chance you can oversample something. So correlation acceptable to, this is interesting. Correlation matrix. Oh shit. Left wing authority. You got some tankies on this one. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, which is expected, but I don't know. I think it's like a cross sample. I'm not 100% sure the entire sample of people, or like
Yeah.
what the exact demographics are, if that's what you're
Okay.
looking at, or how many people.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not familiar with this organization. I'm not familiar with their things. If you're, let's for the purposes of the discussion, let's just assume this is correct, because, Rutgers University is an actual accredited university. I don't know if they're actually involved in this, but we'll just assume they are. One of the things that I find very frustrating about that shit is that this. So there's a reason why, in my opinion, this is me actually spinning a story, in the sense that I'm giving you a reason for why the left within the last 30 years or so, 30 to 50 years, has moved away from murders and towards property destruction. And the reason why is that at the beginning of the 19th century, there was a thing that was called propaganda of the deed. And this were theorists coming from certain political thinkers, some associated with the anarchist movement. And their idea was that if you could find these, in their view, bad people and kill them up in front of everybody, people would be inspired to rise up and throw out their oppressors. The thing is that they tried this for nearly 30 years. It just devolved into like a cycle of violence and revenge. And even when the person who was being targeted was a person who, if anyone deserves to die, they deserve to die. I would give you Henry Clay Frick. That's very famous in the United States. Alexander Berkman tried to assassinate him. And Frick was responsible for something like a little over 2,000 deaths that he specifically did because he built a dam wrong on purpose to save money. And so he drowned over 2,000 people. And, he was also caused a lot of the problems with regard to the workers' movement. So you've got Alexander Berkman, who says, okay, all I got to do is shoot this guy and we'll throw, everybody hates him, and, the revolution will happen, or we'll move forward, or some good outcome will come from it. Well, the fact is it didn't. It had the complete opposite effect. So targeted political assassinations is something that within leftist history, they have known for almost a century now that it doesn't work. So I think that may be part of why you don't see quite so many murders, and people have switched to property destruction. I think this also does go back into left-wing psychology, but that, I've been talking long enough, and I don't want to jump down like a giant rabbit hole unless, that's where you want the conversation to go. But yeah, so I do think that's probably, you would not be wrong to think that like the left is probably overestimated in property destruction types of crimes. And hell, we saw they were overestimated in arson. But the problem is the right hasn't learned that lesson yet. And that I think is probably what is driving more murders rather than fewer.
So why do you think that was the result? Like, for example, like that actually correlates though. Like that's actually not out of the ordinary from what we've seen recently. That doesn't sort of surprise me that over 50% of people who consider themselves left can somewhat justify the murder of Donald Trump or can somewhat justify the murder of Elon Musk. Because what we saw after Charlie Kirk's killing was waves and waves and waves of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are actually celebrating it and who are making excuses for Charlie Kirk's death and for that sort of political violence. So all of this is in accordance. We're seeing all of the violence. We're seeing all of the reaction to the violence. And then we're seeing the polls that actually confirm what we think about how the left views political violence.
I mean, again, I highly doubt it was hundreds of thousands. There were definitely some people on social media who were doing it very prominently, and media on both sides were keen to grab that because that's, again, red meat to their followers. Our media system is based on profit. What makes profit is how much they can monopolize our attention to keep our eyeballs on their things, so that they can sell ads to freaking shoe companies or something. But as a result of that, it can create a false perspective that extremely negative or crazy shit is happening when it's really just the media honing in on something. Now, that said, I noticed that on my own wall, and I spoke out against it. I put out a video while I was driving to my last con. And again, like, I think this is a case of homo homini lupus, as much as it is political. People on either side are often going to try and celebrate the deaths of someone that they personally view as an enemy. With regard to Trump, I think that the bigger problem may be that might have driven it to be larger than it was, is that Trump is essentially the closest thing to a dictator the United States has had. And that the Supreme Court has made him officially above the law. So when the people at the top don't have to obey the law, the people at the bottom say, why the hell am I doing this? Why am I the one that is taking care of this? And that leads to, social dysfunction, class warfare, whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's just
excuse it.
making excuses. Though you have to see why that rhetoric looks like it's making excuses.
That doesn't excuse it. It's just a reason.
Well, it's a reason why we're seeing more political violence on the left. I agree.
Okay. And I think that
All right,
there
well,
is a fundamental breakdown in that, which
I like where it's gone. I think we've become fast friends. I'm happy to go into closing statements, James, if you'd like to.
I'm good too. You're pretty cool.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
Yeah, you should. You went shooting with Andrew. You should let me take you to Iceland sometime.
As long as I get some free comic books. I'm thinking
absolutely.
the dude in The Simpsons who has the comic book store.
Yeah, it's a good comic book guy.
wow.
James?
Well, we are going to jump into the Q&A indeed. I've got a couple of quick housekeeping things. Folks, Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson, Jake, Made by Jim Bob, Apostate Prophet. It is going to be our biggest conference yet. Check out the link in the description box right now. DebateCon 6, Nashville, Tennessee. You can still get very affordable flights. It's still a perfect time to book your tickets. Not only see your debaters debate, but get to meet them. Imagine seeing Jake. Look at this. Wow, those glasses really complement your masculine face, Jake. Imagine seeing that in person. Folks, what are you waiting for? Get your tickets to DebateCon 6. Because for real, we are purposely building in more social time. Because a lot of people were like, why are you packing like 5 debates in a day? We used to do that. We want time to actually hang out with people, have fun, and meet our favorite debaters. So now we're like, hey, all right, maybe like 3 or 4 tops debates per day, so you can actually meet your favorite debaters, including Jake, including Andrew and Rachel Wilson. Folks, come out and have a good time. Other housekeeping things. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, we have an Indiegogo crowdfund. That's linked in the description box. If you're like, James, I'm in Australia. It's so hard for me to get there. Well, I mean, Jake is getting there. But let's say you're like, I still can't do it. check out the crowdfund. You can get, for example, a signed photo of your favorite speaker, whether that be Jake or Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson, you name it. And not, this is the last thing. I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor, Main First. They are sponsoring DebateCon 6, and I'm pulling up the questions right now. Thanks, the page is loading, so I was stalling. But it's almost there.
And James, I'll send you the link. But if people are interested, like I said, I'm starting. I have a full set of Major Arcana tarot cards tied in with Snow White Zombie Apocalypse. They're drawn by Luana Vecchio of Image, and she actually was given a couple of years ago. She's given the Russ Manning Award from the Eisner Committee. That's the Eisners are like the Oscars of comics. So the art is really good, and I'm not just like slapping my characters on tarot cards. So if they want to follow me on Facebook, if they want to follow me on Kickstarter, I'll send you the link, and that way you can know about the campaign.
Thank you. And I will add, folks, both of our guests are linked in the description. But tarot cards, what kind of stuff are you getting into, Brenton? You casting spells?
Well, I was accused of that several times. No,
I bet you were.
What happened when you get overfunded on Kickstarter? You don't have to do it, but people sort of will expect it that you make something a little extra. And I noticed that a lot of the other creators were making like playing cards. They're just like taking their character and slapping it on a playing card and being like, there's your extra thing. And I sort of said to myself, well,
Wow.
that's boring.
You're a wild man, Brenton, but
Yeah.
I appreciate
So
that.
I had like full on tarot cards created with my characters, and they were just so much fun to work. That like, yeah, it's exciting. And the funny thing is, at cons, people will like buy the tarot cards and not read my comic, which
I
kind
can't
of annoys
imagine.
me. But
This one,
yeah.
I gotta tell you, folks, one last second. I just got your question. Matt Lionheart, thanks for adding that in there. Is last but not least, we have new channel memberships. Check those out at the bottom right of your screen. As you can see, debates with classics, Stefan Molyneux, who, by the way, Brenton was in that debate with Stefan Molyneux. Check out our
I
channel
offered him
memberships.
an egg in this trying time.
I don't even know what that means, and I don't think I want to know. But it is going to be, folks, check out our channel memberships. There are some awesome perks. With that, thanks for your patience for jumping into the questions. There's so much. We're very excited about the future. So much is going on. Thank you for your patience. Oh,
Yeah. So Molly
there it is.
Meme is back on the channel, or is he going to be at the debate con?
Who?
Molyneux. Sorry,
Oh,
Molly
no,
Meme.
no.
Some people
He's
call him that.
no, it's one of our members only videos. So if people sign up at the debater level, they get access to our premium classic debates, 350
Oh,
of them. But we're jumping in.
so the debate I did with him is on there.
Yeah, I hope you
Am I
feel
getting a
special.
kickback from this? No, it's not.
No, no, is you're gonna go buy
It's
more
fine.
tarot cards. This one from
Yeah.
Even Lord says, I want to support Modern Day Debate for hosting such an important topic. Thanks for your kind words. Says, for a question for both debaters, who is rightful king of Game of Thrones series? Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, for the win. What do you guys think? Definitely not Peter.
I actually don't. I like Littlefinger. He was always a bit of a heel in the show, but I always quite liked him, and I thought that he was a valuable character. So I'm going to go for Baelish.
So Littlefinger, or do I have to choose between like two people?
Anyone you want. You can pick Joffrey.
I would say the best king for Westeros is probably Drogon, because he burned the Iron Throne, which was the source of all of the problems to begin with.
Wow. This one, thank you for that. I'm positively inclined toward your super chat. Basil Problem says, Taylor, do you have less than 2 point? Oh, sorry, this. Even Lord says, Dr. Coons, would you be willing to host a debate on whether Red Wedding was a justified action for the War of the Five Kings
Not justified and dumb.
from a Game of Thrones? Oh, that's juicy. I have to like rewatch it because I don't even know what that means. Red Wedding. I have to. Okay.
It's like the
No,
biggest spoiler in the whole
no,
series.
Brenton. We have to keep. Just Gerald says, you pores better be going to DebateCon. I don't want to hear any of this. I have a mortgage or my kids need to eat nonsense. I don't know if they're making a jest at. We have tickets are actually very affordable. So we actually do try to do that. And we will have a flash sale in the next week. So if you want a discount, keep an eye out. Even Lord says, do you think the southern states' National Guards have waited for a chance to humble the North for the Civil War? Chud bros, we can't stop winning.
No, just no. That is not how the military functions. Is definitely not how the National Guard functions. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon your perspective, I think it's fortunately, the military is one of the few less political and ideological institutions in the country, and hopefully it will remain that way. But yeah, I don't think there are any secessionists getting excited in the National Guard. And if there are, it's basically a gang that will probably be rooted out by leadership.
Jake, any thoughts on that one?
Nope.
This one coming in from Nominal says, let's look at how right versus left political violence is classified, shall we? Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I think we looked at that throughout the
That's
debate.
what we did. Yes, that was
Yep.
the debate.
Rachel Wilson says, W Jake, and then has a snake emoji. I get it.
W
Paul
Rachel.
Brassfield
W Rachel.
says, love the show, fellas. Hey, James, can you do a debate on UFOs? Yes. We're going to see if we can get Dr. Hugh Ross, cosmologist, to do that. It'd be awesome. Action Pack says, thanks for the content. Thanks for your kind words. Thanks for your positivity, folks. I seriously appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. Matt Lionheart says, hats off to Dr. Coons. Thanks for doing a debate platform. Thanks for your kind words, Matt. And also, Matt asked, for Jake, do you think that the political violence is more on the left for any one specific reason?
Say that again, sorry?
They said, do you think that the political violence is more on the left for any one specific reason?
Yeah, I would say that ultimately it comes down to their atheism.
Oh my.
How do you like them apples, Brent? This one from Richie says,
I'm not an atheist. I'm a Buddhist, but yeah, we should have a conversation.
So you're an atheist?
Here we go.
Say what?
All right. This one,
So you're an
Richie.
atheist?
We can't
No,
go.
I'm
We
not
have
an
to
atheist.
stay focused. They say, Brent, your entire opening was based on studies and you are shocked Jake wants to talk about your studies? Interesting.
I'm not shocked he wanted to talk about them. I'm shocked like he wanted us to go through them like line by line, which ironically, I think when we finally did that with the charts, I feel like that was when we actually started talking to each other more. So hell, maybe your approach is the way we should be doing things.
Semantics are important.
Thanks to Marilyn for your super chat. An anonymous coward says, wow, this is probably the quickest debate win. LMAO stands for Leonard May apologize overtly. The word violent is literally in the debate prompt. Brent, what did you think it meant? Peace?
I thought that the worst form of violence is murder, because that's ripping a human being out of the universe and is probably the single worst thing you could do in my religion. So yeah, obviously I'm going to focus on murders as opposed to lesser violence. Though I will say that, there is definitely room for a larger debate about that, but I feel like if we're talking broadly, most important thing is what we should focus on, and that's murders.
You got it. This one from a Nominal says, how dare you ask Brent to show his quote unquote facts? So you see, Kokomo says,
I did
how
show my facts.
You say how stupid the prompt is about violence, not just murder. Big L for Brent. This one from.
Okay, yep. Yeah. I've definitely lost. Huge L. You're right.
This one from Nominal says, Brent is used to just talking and not being challenged on his quote unquote facts. He
Oh my
immediately
God.
defaults to victim status by building straw men about himself. I
This
appreciate.
guy.
Hold on, I'm
The
not done
funniest
insulting
thing
you.
is
Okay,
if you were ever on my Facebook wall, I like can't shut up
Brent,
about
you have to let me
politics.
finish the super.
Oh, I'm
They
sorry.
say-
Go. I
I
didn't realize there was
appreciate
more.
Brent having the balls to be here, though. Wow, they complimented you.
My
Okay.
balls are fairly large.
Oh,
I'm happy with what I'm working with.
okay, this is why. Cool V1C says, questions for Brent. Why are you a soy boy beta? And how long have you had?
This is a meme at this point. I don't do soy because
doesn't.
soy is like freaking McDonald's of dairy alternatives. I would say like the Vega protein powder. If I'm trying to put on some muscle, that's what I go for because honestly, the whey stuff is kind of gross, and I'm lactose intolerant.
Wow. Brenton found something even more soy than soy. He uses pea protein.
Yeah,
Cool.
way
V1C.
better amino acid profile.
This question for Brent. Oh, they said, how long have you had TDS? Do you have Trump derangement syndrome?
No, I'm just a rational human being that sees a game show host with holes in his brain in command of the most powerful military apparatus the world has ever seen.
Marilyn, thank you for your kind words. M88A2OPR8R says, Thou shalt not talk over thy Lord, but shall remain silent, Brent. This one from
And that was kind of weird, by the way, just like very churchy. I could tell you were
Up,
kind of
up, up, up,
joking.
up, 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 up. My lordship won't be questioned.
Okay.
Thank you.
this one. I always I just love our guests so much. Spiritual, both of you.
This is way better
Spiritual.
than that last guy you had me talk to.
Oh my gosh, Brent. Spiritual Eurasianist says, does Jake realize that most violence that takes place during a political event isn't political violence?
That most violence that takes place during a protest or a riot isn't political violence? Yeah, demonstrate that.
I think what he's probably trying to get at is, again, by your definition of political violence, it is. But what he's probably trying to get at there is that like when things get chaotic in a riot, bad actors start fucking shit up. There's sorry for the YouTube censors, but like I watched a guy, I will never forget this. I was at Occupy on September 17th, right after the park got raided, or November 17th, 15th. It was a while ago. And I remember I watched this guy. They took us around because we were going to do a protest like on the subway, and the organizers sat us down to said to everybody like, okay, this is very important. You need to pay for your Metro cards and use your Metro cards. Do not jump the turnstiles. They really come down hard on that in New York because at the time it was broken windows policing. And so, of course, everybody's here. And then suddenly this guy next to me starts yelling, hey, jump the turnstiles. Somebody's got to jump the turnstiles. And I'm like, what the heck? No, were you listening to anything they said? I'm like, no, it's fine. Just jump them. I go, okay, motherfucker, you jump the turnstiles. And he stopped and went, but I have a Metro card. I saw him later on at like a Million Hoodies march. Watched him throw an egg into the crowd and disappear.
What
There's
are you
some
talking
crazy
about?
freaking
What's
people.
going on right now?
I have
Okay,
no idea. I have no idea what just
activist
happened.
past.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're going to the next question, Brent. I
Yeah,
thought you
good
were
idea.
going somewhere with that.
I was going somewhere.
They say
That's what he means by, oh, okay. To tie it back around, that's probably what he means by non-political violence, specifically violence that happens as a result of the opportunity rather than violence that is actually intended to create political change.
You really are a strange cookie, aren't you?
Oh, I am absolutely nuts, but
You are
I'm
a
happy about
strange
it.
cookie.
It's the job of an artist. We gotta stand out. We gotta stand with 1 foot in society, 1 foot out.
Okay.
This one from Spiritual Eurasianist again says 90% of ideologically motivated violence is committed by whites. The racial discrepancy is much larger than the ideological one. So why focus on leftism?
Do you want to take that, Jake? Because otherwise, I'm going to take that, and he just kind of pissed me off.
So
but
the
I can talk about
ideological
that.
divide is what? Say just briefly, just can you summarize that again?
Yeah, they said 90% of ideologically motivated violence is committed by whites. The racial discrepancy is much larger than
Yeah,
the.
well, the thing is, they you have to say what's ideologically motivated because then they dilute the data and they don't actually attribute equal standards to both sides. So you have to demonstrate it, and that's why we need to have longer debates about these sorts of things. And I think that's what we got into today.
Yeah, what I'll add on to that, what he's doing was doing 90%. Whites are the majority in the United States, so any kind of crime that you're going to have or anything that happens, it's usually just by sheer numbers going to happen to and around white people. That doesn't mean anything specifically. And I've done debates on this before, but when it comes to like actual like interpersonal violence, it breaks down along class lines, not along racial lines.
You got it. This one from MC12 Demon Killer says if the study is faulty and incomplete, then it can be asserted that it is incorrect and wrong. This invalidates the entire argument and point.
No, uh, I don't know who he was trying to side with there. Was that for you or me?
He's saying that your studies are basically irrelevant, is what he's saying.
If well, he can say that, but again, these crime studies in particular are subject to peer review. You're not going to have somebody going out and just publishing anything. Not if they're going through a particular institution and they're an actual academic of some kind, like a criminologist. So there is a apparatus in place to prevent exactly that from happening. It's not always the best, but it's better than anything else. And I mean, you can't just decide a study is wrong because you don't like the implications.
You got it. This one coming in from Do Appreciate It. Folks, want to remind you, if you've enjoyed this, check out our guest links. The guests, we got more questions coming, but our guests are the lifeblood of the channel. They make this channel awesome. It would be terrible if it was me debating myself every night. Check out Jake's
You
link.
would be a
Check out
master
Brent's.
debater.
He'd
my
be
gosh.
masturbating by himself.
You guys are
on
nasty
screen.
guys. Go away, I'm baiting. Tell me what movie that's from. And Rachel Wilson says Jake is correct about neocons being Trotskyite. This is well-known historical fact. Surprised the communist doesn't know this.
Okay, so the communist tradition I'm most interested in is anarcho-communism, and Trotsky famously hated anarcho-coms. Well, also Trotsky was just a miserable bastard. If you read anything about like the Russian Revolution, like that dude sucked.
Okay. This one coming in from oh man, you guys make me enjoy this so much. Now, the buoyant bear said I entered this despising Brenton as a far right guy, but now I want to read his comics. Jake still
Awesome.
won, but I digress. Wow, Brenton, you're winning people over to your comic at least.
That's exactly why I'm doing this. Yeah, you'll really like my stuff, honestly. Durruti Shadow of the People is about anarchists during the Spanish Civil War. NPCs, Myth, Magic, and Retail is basically a sitcom set in a fantasy world, and then Snow White Zombie Apocalypse is blood, romance, martial arts, and gender stuff. That's the one that everybody knows me for, and James will tell you that like I'm not like overtly heavy-handed and political in my work.
Yeah, that's what I actually, to be no joke, I'm not making this up. Someone in the past who is like more conservative, if I remember right, they were like telling me that they liked your stuff. And I was kind of like, really? And the reason is because I just thought this guy's conservative, and I'm apparently Brenton's stuff is actually like more even-handed than I expected but it's fair. I mean, like if you like the original Star Wars movies, I doubt that George Lucas was a Republican. Uh he's probably like left-leaning at least, and I still love the Star Wars original movies. So we're gonna jump into yeah. So don't get cocky. I'm not comparing you to
Art
George Lucas, okay?
art isn't propaganda. They're very similar. They're similar. The sort of bumper sticker way I like to say it is an artist uses lies to tell the truth. A propagandist uses the truth to tell lies.
All right, I don't know what that means. We'll come back to that. MC12 Demon Killer says, reread the Supreme Court official statement. They said that Trump's action in an official capacity is not liable for court action, not personal action.
No, but then they went further and they basically set it up so that anything conceivably could be official action, even personal action. And in fact, the burden of proof is on the state to hold Trump accountable for personal actions, and they have to prove that it is not in his study. Basically, they have to prove that what he did is not um, is not is personal rather than part of his duties as president. So if they're presuming that everything he does, just kind of like how people have to prove that someone is guilty and they're not assumed to be innocent, it effectively makes him completely above the law in every possible way. And you can do that. I mean, they did, but if you do that, the society starts to destabilize, and we're seeing that, and it'll probably get worse until people see the rule of law actually apply to the ruling class.
This one from, oh, okay, I think we've got all of our questions. Folks, Jake and Brent are linked in the description box. What are you waiting for? Check out their links. And then last, oh, really quick, I actually did forget to plug this. Folks, as you see at the bottom right of your screen, if you want to have a huge debate on your college campus, we are currently connected with 4 different universities. And one of them, we're actually setting up a debate conference. It's going to be their group's name. So it doesn't have to be called DebateCon. It doesn't have to be Modern Day Debates branding. It can be, for example, theirs is Ratio Christi. It's an apologetics group. Is that if you're like, hey, yeah, we'd love to have some huge debates on our campus, reach me at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. We will help you coordinate in putting this event on and make it huge. We believe that Modern Day Debate hosting debates on college campuses is, to a significant degree, a major arm for growth, for moving forward. So if you are affiliated with a university, if you have your own club, like, well, I've already got my own club. You don't have to start a Modern Day Debate chapter. If you want, though, you can. But even with your own club, like Ratio Christi, it can be Ratio Christi Con, and we'll host those debates and help you make it happen. Let me just double check in chat. I think that's all for the questions. Oh, we're going to put a chat. So I'm going to let our guests go, unless you guys want to talk about Game of Thrones, but I'm going to let our guests go because I know they're busy. I am curious, what do you guys think about Game of Thrones? Do you think it was as good as Breaking Bad?
Game of
Obviously not.
Thrones was like one of the best TV shows in the history of the world until about started to go off the rails in season 5 and just became absolute crap at season
Yeah.
7 and 8.
I mean, I hated the last season, but Peaky Blinders is the GOAT. But I am going to let you go, James. Much love to you and the audience, and I will see you in Nashville in November.
100%. Thank you, Jake.
All
Have
right.
a great
See
night.
you later, Brenton. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Let me know if you
Yeah.
ever want to just like talk outside of a what's it called?
Debate capacity.
Yeah, outside of a competitive capacity, because
Right.
I watched some of your videos before coming in, and like you seem to be an interesting guy.
All right.
Jake,
Thanks, man.
catch
Well,
you guys
take
later.
care of yourself, and see you later.
Yep.
Bye. Jake has a date to go on. Now I'm putting a poll in the chat. Let me just fix this because everybody's like, oh, the screen is scrambled. Actually, they're not saying that, to be fair.
You at the start of the debate. Wait, did Brent leave? I think Brent left. What the? That's okay. Brent left too. I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Whenever we have a technical issue at the start of the debate, I'm more like angry about it than anybody. Like it bothers me because it's what I do for a living now. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like now what's going, and then I'm thinking about like, this is just so frustrating. So when they're in chat, I appreciate so much that some of you guys are like, hey, no big deal, like no sweat. I appreciate that so much. And then there are some people though that are just nasty, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like this debate is, oh, I'm getting angry. You know, it's not happening right now. It's got a technical error, and they're getting angry. Yeah, the great take says, James, let it go. No. I'm gonna address this because we're changing the culture here. So you're gonna listen. You're gonna like it, or you're gonna leave. Is that the way this works? Is we're changing the culture here. I've for years let everybody get away with so much, and I still let people get away with so much in terms of what they are allowed to say in the live chat. But one thing that I'm not going to deal with is when people are like, you know, talking smack. Is like, no, not having that. Because sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, James, you're so stupid. And I'm just like, bro, like, get out of here. I'm going to toss you. Here's the poll. Who is the most persuasive tonight? You have the choices of Jake, and Brenton, and then maybe they're fence sitters on the fence. So there are your options. Now, I do want to say, though, some of you have been so supportive. So I do want to even go and say, folks, thank you for becoming members. A lot of you guys even did it, I think, maybe to make me feel good during that technical issue. Marilyn, thank you for becoming a member. Even Lord, thank you for becoming a member. Thank you so much. S. Samuel 33, thank you for your kind words. I see there in the chat. That means more than you know. And I know that there were a lot of super kind super chats. Matt Lionheart, if you're listening, if you're still here in the chat, thank you so much for your super generous super chat. It means more than you know. Now, so most people were positive, or they just didn't complain. They were just kind of like, yeah, it sucks for James. But they at least didn't talk smack. So I appreciate that. Most people were positive, but we are going to, I'm going to start laying the smack down on people who are talking trash where it's like, dude, no, we're not doing that. Thank you for your guys' loyalty, being positive, not being, and that's the thing too. It's like, if that really gets you triggered, like the great take gets all triggered in chat. If that really gets you triggered, you guys may want to consider, do you have anger management issues, or like if you're just a little bit emotionally volatile, because like you guys shouldn't, some of you get way too upset over that stuff. I Killed Earl, thank you for your super chat, and said, let's see, I don't want to read it because Jake's not here to defend himself. It's there in the live chat if you want to see it, folks. I Killed Earl, thanks for your support. Now, but yeah, I want to say thank you guys for your positivity. But yeah, it was Pseudoscience Denier. Bro, I was serious. I was close to blocking you because you were like, "Ooh, we're just, like, it's cool if we're hard on you, James." It's like, no, bro, you're not hearing me. Like, I am not gonna put up with that stuff anymore. And then yeah. So watch it, bro. I know that I'm based on your profile pic. No offense. I don't know. I mean, I know maybe you're trying to like be, like flirty or something. I assume you prefer the company of men, and you're welcome here if you prefer the company of men. But if you're trying to be flirty, like, no, like it's gross. No. Now, people always say, James, you're so bigoted. You always assume. I see Brent in chat. Thanks, Brent, for hanging out. They say, James, you always assume every gay man likes you, and you always say like no flirting, like but to be fair, I always assume every heterosexual woman likes me too. So it's very fair. And I've got to tell you, the great take says, blocking who? I'm serious. I am blocking some people. If they like, there was one person, she was just pissed, and she was like, James, you've been doing this for how many years? You obviously should, like, you're an idiot. You should know better. It was brutal, where I was like, what is your problem? Like, it's like a 15-minute delay on a free debate that's just here for the public. Is that, again, that's like a less than 1%. So I don't want to overly focus on them. I want to focus on you. Thank you for your kindness. Revolution, I see it there in the live chat. I don't know if we'll do a KJV debate. We might. It depends on who would be in the debate. If you know of big debaters that support the KJV or against it, let me know, because it's a possibility. Let's see. Pseudoscience. Listen, we're not picking on you because you prefer the company of men, pseudoscience denier. Like, I was just saying, I was saying more that I don't know if you could read between the lines. I was saying you were flirting with me, or it came off like you might be. Catman says, hey, James, I've watched since this was a pretty small channel. I think it's the best it has ever been, and good to have you modding the debates more again. Thanks, Catman. Seriously, it means more than you know. And but yeah. Long story short is that I just want to say thank you guys for your positivity. The Piley, I see it there in the old live chat. The poll is still up. Now, I want to show you. Okay. That got muted. Thanks for your heads up. I did not realize that. I'm going to fix it right now. Thanks for your feedback. You guys are awesome. That is like good feedback where you guys are like, hey, I can't hear you. Like, that's cool. Like, I'm never annoyed by that. Let me fix this so you guys can actually hear. So I'm going to have to add like a little audio source. So it'll go mute again. I'm going to fix it though. Okay. 2 seconds. Promote. Here we go. Okay. Thanks for your patience. And thanks for your feedback. Seriously. But yeah. James Bond says, come on, James, LOL. I don't get it. Let's see. And Isai Beltran says, a great topic would be, is virology pseudoscience? That is an interesting idea. And my last name, are UFOs real? Thank you. That's a good idea. You're right. And I'm glad to see you again. And let's see here. Marilyn, thanks for your support in the old live chat. Now here we go. Samurai Shampoo says, thanks for coming by. Here we go. At the top left, give without a perk. If you're like, hey, you just want to support DebateCon, like I love that you do these events, I love this channel, I just want to support it more broadly. That is just like, hey, I'm just going to give without a perk. And that's like at the $5 level. But I'm going to put this link for the crowdfund into the live chat too. Thanks for your patience. Let's say you are like, okay, well, what else are there for perks, James? Is, as you can see, right above me, your name and the post-debate credits. So basically, this is where we put names and say, hey, huge thanks to our, you could say kind of like mini sponsors for supporting DebateCon. And then you can see at the top right, it says DebateCon 4 that was just a past example of one, is if you are like, hey, I would be amped to have a signed emblem page that says DebateCon 6. I think it is debate. Yeah, it's DebateCon 6. That's crazy that we're on our 6th one. Is if you're like, hey, I want a signed emblem page that says DebateCon 6, signed by all the debaters. That is another perk. And then to the left of me, a signed photo of your favorite debater. That is an example of one. That's not Andrew's real handwriting. He wishes his handwriting was that good. It's not. I've seen it. But you can get Andrew's signed photo. That's an option. And then you can see at the bottom right, just to the right underneath me, it says one-on-one Zoom chat with Dr. James. That's where you can ask anything. And if you want to record it and put it on your YouTube channel, you can do that too, whatever you want. Or maybe you're like, hey, I just want to ask, like, how do you do OBS? Like, how do you, although based on tonight, you might be wondering. Although that was, it was Brenton. I forgot. Okay, sorry. I just peeked. It was, I asked them, I said, do either of you guys have the YouTube like playing on a browser on your computer? And they were both like, no. And then like after I tried like every other thing, Brenton's like, oh, I did. And I was like, oh. And there's like some people in the live chat were like, James, you need to hire a producer. You need to, you know, you should know better. You should know how to do this by now. Like all this. And I'm like, there are so many people that like, they have no idea what they're talking about. And they will just so arrogantly, like in the live chat, like, you need to do this. And it's like idiocracy. But like I said, 99% of you are positive. So I appreciate that. But yeah, everybody is like, James, you need to hire a tech guy. It's like, I asked Brenton, and apparently, anyway, no heart. I'm not trying to throw Brenton under the bus. Catman says, James, I would like to see something like, what is fascism? A topic where both debaters have to put forth a positive view. Wow. I think it could go another direction. That's juicy and controversial. I don't know if YouTube would allow it. That might be pushing the boundary. I don't know if they're going to topic where they put forth a positive view. You mean like they make a case for fascism? I don't know if YouTube would allow it. I don't know, but it is controversial. And Brandon S. says, James is their next scheduled upcoming debate. Yeah, this Friday. It's a big one. So this was like DebateCon worthy. I asked Dan Barker, and he already had travel planned, so he couldn't do it. But I said, you want to debate Mike Jones in person at DebateCon? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to, but I got travel booked already. So that debate this Friday is like DebateCon worthy. It's that good. So you have to tune in for that. But yeah, I am excited. I have to run. We have so much going on, but I got to tell you, folks, I'm going to just I put that Indiegogo there in the link. Last but not least, again, grab your tickets for DebateCon. Come out, meet us in person. Meet me, say hello. Like if you're at DebateCon for real, do come and say hello to me, because like I like it when people say hi, and I try to walk around and say, hey guys, like thanks for coming out. But a lot of people, I usually do that, and I want to like engage them, but I know some people are introverted, so I don't want to be pushy, right? So if you like talking, like come talk to me. Like I'm excited to get to meet you guys. So let's see. Casual Crypt, thanks for being here. Norek, I see you there in the live chat. I'm going to wrap up, but I want to say, for real, thank you guys for your support. DebateCon 6 in Nashville. This is next month. It's not that far away anymore, because it might be like, when we launched it in August, it was like, oh, that's like November. Like it's going to be cold and snowy out. Now it's just next month. It's like 1 month and 1 week away. Exactly. It's coming really fast. Did you guys ever notice like how big my hands are? The point is this. Enough about my hands. It's going to be huge. You don't want to miss it. DebateCon 6. It's going to be amazing. Andrew Wilson versus, I haven't done a great job of showing the debates. Let me show you. Yeah, I actually have to show you the schedule, because you might be wondering. But the biggest thing is, I'm going to load this up actually. The biggest thing is you're going to also get to meet the speakers. And then I've got to go because I can tell my back is going to be tight after this. I got to keep moving. You might be thinking, James, you keep talking about this precious, thank you, Mill9999, for your weird hearts. I hope that I was the man who I was accused of. Thank you. Catman says, amazing. Adam Price says, huge. It is going to be. Oh, I keep clicking. Let me, like a beta. What the? Brenton. Oh, like Brenton and his tarot cards. There's no judgment here. But Brenton, why are you getting into tarot cards? Sorry, it's like you're just like, haven't you ever seen the movie Paranormal Activity? All right, let me just pull this up. Which, by the way, is like the worst movie I've ever seen. I watched that like a week ago. You might be thinking, James, like, tell me what this whole DebateCon thing is all about. You got it. I will. So you can see on screen. Okay, DebateCon 6 in Nashville. You can click Get Tickets. But when you scroll down, you can see it says like when and where. Holiday Inn, Nashville Airport. And this is probably the last time we're going to be doing it at the Holiday Inn. No offense to the Holiday Inn, but we need better venues overall. They're fine, but we want university campuses. So if you are connected with a university, let me know. Now, thank you to our sponsors, Maine First Project and Uncensored America. Here's the schedule, because you might be thinking, like, well, what is it that is going to happen? Is that Jacob Rattlesnake TV versus Planet Peterson. You can see that at 11 a.m. There's also going to be at 3 p.m. Rachel Wilson versus Craig. Is feminism more good or bad for society? Then, the main event, Andrew Wilson versus Daniel Hakikachu on Christianity or Islam, which is better for society. The roof is going to blow off during that debate. It is going to be, oh my gosh. Oh, man. I am like, oh, gosh. Made by Jim Bob versus Planet Peterson on day 2 at 9 a.m. And Daniel Hakikachu versus Cleveland. Debate topic still TBD. And Apostate Prophet versus Dr. Javad Hashmi. Christianity or Islam, which is more violent? Finally, the main event of the conference. Andrew Wilson versus Dr. Richard Carrier. You guys, it's going to be massive. Come out to this event. Meet friends. You also get to meet people who have like a shared interest in these topics. So you're meeting not only your favorite content creators, you're meeting friends that you get to meet in person that are like, yeah, I love these debates too. But want to say thank you. I will bid you adieu. Au revoir. Bon voyage. Adios. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything, you guys. I always like find it hard to like actually stop the stream because I just enjoy talking to you guys. And so Norek, Mill 9999, The Great Take, even you, The Great Take, even you. Catman, Marilyn, thank you guys for your support. Tony Coriolis, 3 Days of Darkness, thank you guys for all of your support. Capital Science, thanks for being here. Love you guys. Appreciate your support of the channel for real. And I hope you have a great night. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Check out those channel memberships too. Almost forgot. We do have 3 different levels now, and cheapest one just $2.99. You get all the badges, the emojis, a lot of perks. We've actually basically we had like 6 tiers, and we're like, this is just complicated. Let's just do 3, and we like crammed all the perks into those 3 tiers. Marilyn, thanks for your super chat. Says, now that you know I'm not a bot or Melvin. We'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for your support. And Pseudoscience Denier says payback is coming. You better watch it. Is that a picture? I don't know what that picture is in your profile picture. It looks like a man with his shirt off. That's all I know. But yeah, thanks guys. I love you guys. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We'll see you next time.